Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Abhishta. Today I'll be teaching you the basics of chess, how the pieces move, the rules of the game, and how much each piece is worth. So let's get started. This is the setup of the board. The pawns go in the second rank, the rooks go in the corners, followed by the knights, bishops, and the queen. Remember, the queen goes on her color. The king takes the remaining square in the center. We need to mirror this setup for black. Players take alternating chances to make a move. Now let's see how each of the pieces move. Firstly, the pawns. The pawns can only move one square at a time, but on their first move, they can move two squares. And they can only capture diagonally and not vertically. An important point to remember is that pawns cannot move backwards. Now for the rooks can only move in straight lines, either horizontally or vertically. But an important point to note is that they can't jump over pieces. They can move backwards as well. Now for the knights are unique as they can move in L shape. Two squares in one direction and one square perpendicular to it. But unlike most other pieces, knight can jump over pieces and they can move backwards as well. The bishops move diagonally, staying on their color, but just like rooks, they can't jump over pieces. The queen is the most powerful piece. It can move any number of squares in any directions, horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. But just like the rook and the bishop, it can't jump over pieces. The king can move one square in any direction, but just like queen, rook and the bishop, he can't jump over other pieces. One important rule to remember is that you can't capture your own piece, but you can capture your opponent's piece. In this example, the queen moves to a square which is occupied by an opponent pawn, and that pawn is then removed from the board and is no longer used in the game. Each piece has a value through which we can judge its power. The pawn is worth 1 point, the bishop and the knight are worth 3 points each, and the rook is worth 5 points, and the queen is worth 9 points. The king doesn't have any points since the game revolves around protecting him. Here are a few simple rules of the game. The first one is check. The king is in check when it's attacked by another piece. To defend it, you can either block the piece, capture the piece, or move the king to a safety. If none of these options are available, it's called a checkmate and the player who is checkmated loses the game. Another special move involving the king and a rook is called castling. In this move, the king moves two squares towards a rook and the rooks jump over to the other side of the king. This can happen in any side of the board, but the rules are that the king or the rook must not have moved in any stage before. If not, the move of castling is not legal. Another situation in which castling is not allowed is when the king is in check or has to pass through check. The next thing we are going to discuss is called en-passant. This is a move where when a pawn moves two squares and lands beside an enemy pawn, the pawn can capture the pawn as if the pawn had only moved one square forward. However, this has to happen just the next move after the move was played. If not, it is not legal to play en-passant. The final rule which we are going to discuss is called promotion. This happens when our pawn reaches to the opponent's end of the board. The pawn can be promoted into a queen, knight, rook or bishop, but it's usually preferred to be promoted to a queen as the queen is the strongest piece on the board. Also, promotions can occur multiple times in a single game. And that's it. Now you know the basics of chess, how the pieces move, the rules, how pieces are captured, and how the value of pieces are determined. Remember, the pieces can move backwards, but pawns can't. So if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more chess videos.